एरिया एनक्लेव के एन वस्त में मदीना मॉल एंड रेजिडेंसी, मरगला के पहाड़ों के हसीन व्यू लिए वर्ल्ड क्लास बेहतरीन फैसिलिटीज और एमिनिटीज के साथ 2 और 3 बेडरूम के सुपर लग्जरी लाइफस्टाइल अपार्टमेंट और शॉपिंग मॉल। हर अपार्टमेंट विला जैसा रोशन और कुशादा। बुकिंग और तफसीलात के लिए अभी कॉल करें।
मैं अपने ओवरसीज पाकिस्तानी बहनों और भाइयों के लिए ला रहा हूँ एक शानदार प्रोजेक्ट, मदीना मॉल एंड रेजिडेंसी। तफसीलात के लिए रब्ता कीजिए शराज बदर 5198078771। ईमेल कीजिए shiraz@propertybrothers.com।
I'm Aruna Papp. Welcome to Family Conflict and Mediation. Anusha and I work with families that are dealing with conflict, and we try to help them talk about the conflicts and find a way to mediate and live peacefully. And between the two of us, there is a huge generational gap. She's as old as my children, and I like to pick on you and ask you things like, what's happening with your generation? For example, when I was first came to Canada, I heard a term called, it takes a village to raise a child, for example, and I didn't know what they meant. And then I thought that maybe it meant that all grandparents and uncles and aunties, they have a right to look after my child, but they're not here. Or if they are here, am I going to impose on them? And there was a lot of conflict between parents-in-laws and not looking after the children. And I was very gung-ho on, it takes a village to raise a child. What is happening within that context with the younger families that you're working with? Where is the village? What does it look like?
So I think the village is still there, it's prominent, it's necessary, but I think the way the village looks might be different from a time when you were just a parent, or when you were growing up even, let's say, or even for myself. I don't think the village, to be honest, is limited to just family anymore. The grandparents, uncles and aunts, which is a good ideal situation, but realistically, we're living far away from home. We're not
but
back home.
even grandparents don't agree with the parenting that the younger people want, right? So it's not really appropriate a lot of times. Is that true?
Yeah, I think sometimes where you expect your support to come from your own family in your village, it may not be so. And sometimes there's other factors like living far away from home, having parents or grandparents that are much elder and are not able to take care of children the way it was back in the day. I think the village comes more from the society, the community that we're living in. So this could be young moms and dads reaching out to their own supports, their own friend circle, their cousins of their age. On social media, it's the digital age, so it's all about reaching out for groups, like having good support groups that can help you navigate through some of these challenges of parenting at any age. So that's helpful, and I think that that's important to see that is also constitutes as a village. Where people can reach out to even schools and teachers and counselors. There's coaches. There is no limit to who you can reach out to. I think it does still take a village, but just that village looks different today.
So if you're living in an apartment and you're a young mom, you could be looking for other young moms who live in that apartment building or in that neighborhood. And so you can become a group of moms that have children that age, or you can go to school and find moms of the children that your children go to school with.
Yes, and both those scenarios are really good examples of what we encourage our families to look out for. Now, we know, Aruna, when isolation hits and when you are limited to just very few resources, if any, that is going to bring on a lot of problems and challenges. Raising kids, I feel, be it today or my parents' age or your grandparents' age, it's still the same. The challenges may present differently, but it's still going to be ongoing. So I think reaching out to your supports is important, even more so today, so you're not getting in a place where you are isolated, because isolation can then cause a lot of other problems, right, in terms of parenting and mental health and just not feeling that you're equipped. So these moms that we're talking about to reach out for play dates in the school, weekend groups, just going out for stroller walks together for those moms with young infants, or even just like I said, in reaching out on your phone and having support groups where you know that there's a platform that everyone can come to, tap in and speak about what their concerns are or what they're struggling with. You know, and then have that conversation on a big mass dialogue and know that you're not alone. At the end of the day, I think that's the message that you're getting is for moms or dads. There are a lot of single dads that will be raising kids too, and they need support equally. So everyone does, I think.
I heard of something which I thought was very clever and very helpful the other day, and it had not occurred to me when I was a parent, is that there are women who are working moms and dads are working as well, and they want to have healthy meals for their children. So one mom cooks 4 or 5 meals and the other moms come and pick them up. And then the other one picks and cooks them, and so one person's doing the cooking, the others are just picking them up.
Right. That's amazing.
But they're also doing the same thing. One mom, whoever is appointed, keeps all the kids that afternoon, where the rest of the moms go shopping.
Yeah.
And they take turns, or one family keeps the children while the other couples have dates among themselves. And I thought that was a very good use of technology, your phones, and you know, when you were growing up, you know, I know what, you know, I had family around, so I had help with the children. And so when you were growing up and your family was here, what did that village look like for you and your siblings?
So for myself, coming to this country as immigrants, we didn't have a lot of support. My parents did have some family friends. My grandmother lived with us, so we did have a little bit, I think, of that village that we were able to have through her, because she was obviously staying at home and she was taking care of us, and she was wonderful. She was there to pick us up from school until her health allowed. We were just maybe a 5-minute walk away from school, so we had that, you know, ability to know that we're coming home and grandma's home. My mom had a little bit of, you know, leisure in terms of her traveling and commute, because she knew she didn't have to rush home to get us, so she's not running to beat the clock. Grandma's there, you know, most of the time food was taken care of, so we did have that village. Now I know coming to a new country and not having that support and not knowing anybody and not knowing where to go and access resources and supports can be so really scary for, I think, any parent of any child. So I think that is also why today's age is good, where you're able to, like you mentioned, the moms, where there's a circle of people and a community that's willing to reach out and everyone do a little bit of your role, because we know that the things that you mentioned about food and making sure meals are prepped and, you know, kids are fed on time, and then they've got extracurricular activities they need to get to, then there's homework and the bedtime. It's never ending, and it's all in a very short period of time, from the time they get home to the time that it's bedtime. So having people in your circle, even if it's 1 or 2, it's just quality you're looking for, right? Maybe look around the area that you're living, maybe go to drop-in centers for moms, like there's Ontario Early Years in most of, you know, the places that we have here. There are ways that you can talk to and build your network through schools and daycares and looking at who's available, right? There are moms that maybe even meet at a doctor's office. They exchange phone numbers. What do you think? Don't you think that's helpful?
See, one of the things that we talk about, you know, because I've been here in Canada for about 46 years now, so I don't consider myself a new immigrant, but we have communities of new immigrants coming from around the world. And I can, you know, empathize with them, how scary it is for them to allow their child to walk to the milk store, the 7-Eleven to the corner. But one of the things that I didn't know when I was new is that there are places that are called community centers.
Yes.
And every neighborhood has a church.
Yes.
You know, and all the churches are open to anybody.
Yes.
They have daycare, they have programs, and it doesn't matter what language you speak. Community centers are open for everybody.
Yeah.
And it is important to take your family down there and have a look.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Talk to somebody, and if they don't speak your language, they will find somebody in your language who can speak. But they also, you don't have to have the resources. You don't have to have baseballs, and you don't have
Yeah.
to. All the games are provided. You know,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
equipment is provided in the in the community center.
Yeah.
The other places that we neglect to go as new immigrants is libraries. You know,
Yes.
there are a lot of functions that
Yes.
happen in the library and that are free.
Yeah.
And if you need somebody who speaks your language, the library will also help you find
Yeah.
those.
They'll arrange for that.
They
Yeah.
will arrange for that.
Yeah.
So the village that is raising the child today looks very different. And it is up to you to go out and find out, not just, I mean, places of worship is great. You can go and find your community there, and there are social groups as well, so, you know, who speak your language or from your culture. But there are other things that your children need to learn as well, for swimming, skating,
Yeah.
baseball, whatever their interest is. And those are some of those things that your child can be learning as well.
Right.
Now, one of the things that we come across often is parents don't agree on what activities the children should participate in.
Right.
Tell me about those kind of conflicts when mom says, yes, daughter can play baseball
Right.
or go swimming, and grandparents say, no, they can't. How do you deal with that conflict?
Those are difficult as well. Those are a lot of the interfamilial conflicts we're looking at, where there's different generations together that's taking care of this child, and everyone has their say, rightfully so. And how do you tell a grandparent that their say doesn't matter in their grandchild's? So I think those are ongoing conflicts where you really need to encourage parents to sit and have a really clear, candid conversation. Maybe hear what the worries are on the other side. Maybe explain a little bit into why it's necessary for children to be exposed to all kinds of extracurricular, like swimming and skating and sports of any sort. And you know, are going to be those different generational ideologies around what kids should and can and cannot do, and also gender-based, right, Aruna? I think we're also looking at certain times where families are going to go based on maybe their own traditional values or their cultural mindset, or just the space they're coming from is very different from what mainstream looks like today. And that's what's, you know, bringing on these conversations about, but girls can do this and boys can do this, and then on the other side what they can and cannot do. That's a challenge. That's also a part of educating families and bringing awareness into what modern times looks like, and how it's helpful to have children not be distinguished between just what they can and cannot do based on their gender, right? That they're living in a society where boys can learn arts and cooking, and they do, and girls can play sports. So there isn't and shouldn't be a difference. And I think that that's some, you know, work that needs to be done.
I think it is absolutely very important. What you just mentioned is the gender-based. Parents will say, my daughter cannot play baseball. Or because the boys are playing baseball, or it's a mixed team, and we don't like our girls playing with the boys.
Yeah.
But they want the girls to become engineers, and they want the daughters to become doctors
Yeah.
and lawyers.
Yeah.
Now, if a child is listening to parents saying, you cannot associate with boys, you cannot play games with boys,
Yeah.
you cannot talk to boys, and they are, what, 9, 10, 11-year-old, how are they going to function when they're in high school?
Yeah.
How are they going to function in university? How are they going to function if they're going to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, or what, teachers, or whatever it is that their goals are, you know? So parents don't realize that what is said in childhood continues.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. It carries all the messages that you're giving your children, positive or negative, you know, harmful or helpful, I think is going to carry a lifetime. So it's also about really sitting back and having your own reflection on what is it that you want your children to learn, and putting anyone in a box and saying, you know, that you're a boy, so you just do this, or you're a girl, you just do this, is not going to have any positive outcome. Because the reality is, like you said, they're living in a society where men, women, everyone, whoever, however you identify, functions together as a society. So be it in school, be it in any academic field, be it in any entertainment field or extracurricular or work field, right? Because at the end of the day, these parents also know that they're not raising their daughters just to go in a profession where it's just women, or vice versa, right? Where they're not raising their boys just to go and only play sports in a place where it's just going to be boys. So these notions have to kind of disappear with time a little bit, and we have to leave them behind because they're not teaching children or our generation anything about equality. They're not teaching anyone about acceptance and inclusion. And these are all themes that are really important. The way they start now, as you know, with the school system, it starts very young in teaching children a lot, right? And that's a whole different topic about what's appropriate and what's not. But the overall message is that we don't distinguish. We don't make distinctions. We don't look at a way of teaching kids about, only this is black and this is white. There is no black and white. We're living in a world where there's a lot of gray, and children need to learn that.
And I've heard parents say, after she finishes high school, she's going to get married, have children, and be a wife. So she doesn't need a career.
Yeah.
What happens if the husband dies?
Yeah.
What happens if she has to support the family, the children herself?
Yeah.
We don't think that far.
No,
We don't think that might happen.
Yeah.
And how do you counsel parents like that?
Prevalent today, what's happening in our society, and just explaining that the messages they want to give their girls in this scenario is that by saying that you don't need a career and you can just be a homemaker, it's not helping. It's not helping them become independent or self-sufficient or knowing that they have worth. And I think anybody, boy, girl, or anyone, that you have some self-worth. You need to understand that you are good in yourself, in your whole self, and accept that. And you don't need to be dependent on anybody for anything. Support is one thing, but you function independently as well. So that's important, not to raise children knowing that they're not good enough in themselves and that they need someone to always rely on, and that they cannot go out and work or
Well, when
do
you
what they
say
want.
children, it's not boys that they're talking to. It's
Yeah, in this
always the
case,
girls.
it's girls,
That
yeah.
somebody will take care of you. You will get married, and you will have support, and you
Yeah.
will be a mom, and you will be a
Yeah.
wife. You look around the world,
Yeah, it's very
everywhere.
different.
Women have, worked, but now they're working even much more than they
Yeah.
did in the past. And so they have to be educated, and they have to be
Yeah.
prepared for being single parents,
Yeah.
no matter what happens, what circumstances they might be in.
Yeah, in any
We
scenario.
can't control that.
Making sure that you're giving those messages that are consistent with the society that we're living in, and the learning those lessons that we are all hoping that everyone learns, right? Around, like I said, about equality and about inclusion, and having those intergenerational conversations where everybody has their own maybe frame of mind or their school of thought they come from. We really need to sit back, like I said, and look at the bigger picture. How is
So
this helping?
what would you say if a parent says, that's our culture, that's our religion, this is what girls are supposed to do? How do you compact that? How do you deal with that issue, that conflict?
We speak to them openly about the worries with those notions and messages, and how children will grow up, how their girls will grow up thinking that they're not good enough, not having self-confidence, and thinking that they need the support of a man, or they need a husband to complete this picture for them, and that that is problematic. And at the end of the day, they have left their country. Maybe they've come here with hopes. So what do those hopes look like? What are the opportunities that you want your next generation to have that you didn't have? And how are ways that we can stop the cycle from continuing? Because you may have grown up with those ideologies, but they're not going to work in today's world. So you want the best for your daughter is what I would say, right? Or son, but let's talk about the girls. You want the best for your daughter. What does that look like for you? And what does that need to be? And are we helping her if we're pumping her in with this, thing about her not being good enough and about her needing someone else's support her whole life? Then what is that doing to her own sense of
And
self-worth?
children learn very early in life that boys are supposed to grow up to look after the family, look after a
Yeah.
wife, and the girl learns very early
Yeah.
in that circumstances that she needs to be dependent on a husband,
Exactly.
and focus on being a good mom
Yeah.
and a wife. And so if she learns that very early and finds herself in the circumstances that are difficult, she's going to have a very hard
Exactly.
time with
Yeah.
her future. And she is also going to be in conflict with her peers in school
Absolutely,
right
yeah.
now, in high school, where they are becoming independent, where they are learning and looking to a different kind of a future.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for watching us. We will be with you next week with a different topic, and hope to hear from you about the topics that we are discussing on the show. Thank you.